My Seven Chakras, episode 186.
Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do.
The seven chakras, swirling vortices of energy, positioned throughout our body from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. For thousands of years, this ancient wisdom has been passed on from master to disciple. What are the functions of these energy centers? And could these chakras help you unlock your destiny and find your true purpose? Welcome to My Seven Chakras. And now, your host, Aditya Jai Kumar.
What's up, Action Tribe? AJ here, founder and host of My Seven Chakras, the show where we dive deep into the ancient world to uncover nuggets of wisdom that will help you find your life's purpose. Before we dive into the magic, let's listen to our latest iTunes review by a user named 8glass who writes, I have learned so much from this podcast. I really enjoy the upbeat message that the host Aditya delivers every week along with his guests that he gets on the show. The show is really high quality and well organized with a large archive of past episodes. I always have something to listen to that can open my mind or shift my attitude. The host is truly a joy to listen to. Not only does he encourage everybody to live to their full potential, Aditya has taken action by setting up a Facebook support group to help people reach their goals. Aditya, you are completely inspirational. Thank you. Wow. I really appreciate when action takers take their time to write such detailed, wonderful reviews like this one. It really makes my day, especially since it's Christmas today. Thanks, 8glass. Action Tribe, if you want your review to be read out as well, make sure you share your views, your thoughts, and your experiences in the form of an iTunes review. If you've never written a review before, it's super simple. If you're on your podcast app on your iPhone, just hit reviews and then hit write a review. You can also use this link to jump directly onto the iTunes review page. The link that you need is my7chakras.com/review. That's my7chakras.com/review. And like I always say, just one review from you is a giant leap for our show. And with that, I am super excited to bring you our featured guest for today, Michael Anderson. So Michael, are you ready to inspire?
AJ, I'm so ready to inspire.
That is awesome. So Michael Anderson teaches leaders how to lead from a soul-centered perspective. His business success includes starting, growing, and selling 3 companies, wanting more out of life. He then went on to earn his master's degree in spiritual psychology. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. I've given our listeners a short intro about you, but could you take a few more seconds to tell us a bit more about your wonderful story?
Yeah, thanks, AJ, and thanks for having me on. For me, I found myself, I'm a pretty driven guy, and I found myself actually materially successful. I think, like you mentioned, I've had business success. I founded 3 international software companies, played semi-pro basketball. AJ, I used to party at the Playboy Mansion. So I had a lot of outward material success, but I didn't have any internal joy and fulfillment. And I was, and then, like you mentioned, I went and I earned a really unique master's in spiritual psychology, which was really life-changing for me. So life-changing that I sold my software companies, and I really wanted to give back and help similar people like me. So that's why I became I'm an author. I do speaking, I do workshops, and do training, and I teach people how to have fulfilling lives, both materially successful and internally successful, you might say.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for sharing that with us. I can't wait to dive into your story. But before that, let's begin with some inspirational magic. What is your favorite inspirational quote, and how does that quote apply in your life?
So Marianne Williamson says, and this is a portion of the quote because the quote's quite long, but it says, your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. So to me, that really talks about sort of our core essence. And what I teach soul-centered leadership. So I teach really connecting to our higher power, because I believe, AJ, that we are all creators from a divine, we're here on earth to create as well as evolve spiritually. And And oftentimes when we create, things come up that we have to work on, what you might call soul lessons, which you and some of your listeners are probably aware of. And I really, to me, one of the ways you can look at all my work and what I help people do is I help them get rid of all the crap that's in the way of helping them create. Because so many people have ideas for a book or a blog or a company or helping people or being of service, and they have all these ideas, but then they get crippled by fear. They don't want to, they get analysis paralysis, and then they don't even take the first step. And AJ, that's why I think your podcast is so inspirational, because you're giving people everything I know about you and Seven Chakras and your group and everything else is giving people that first step. So that's why I'm really excited to be here and see if I can help one more person take one more first step.
Wonderful. I really love the quote that you shared. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. Action Tribe, we are all meant to shine as children do. And as Michael says, we are all born to create. So thanks a lot for sharing that with us. And with that, let's dive in. Now, you've sort of spoken a bit about soul-centered leadership, but my question is, what inspired you to write your new book, Soul-Centered Leadership?
Well, before, like I mentioned, I was so ego-driven, and I wanted to, make money and be powerful, and date pretty girls and drive nice cars. And there's not anything specifically wrong with that, but I was doing it from such an ego-based, negative, I want to show the world that I'm important type place. It was a really difficult place to live from. And I never had any real spirituality or emotional intelligence in my life. But I was like, look, what's going on? Because I'm achieving all the goals that I set out to achieve. And I wasn't, and I kept waiting to be happy. I'm like, all right, when I make this amount of money, I'm going to be happy. When I, date this type of girl, I'm going to be happy. When I, my company gets this big, I'm going to be happy. But actually, it was weird, because I was like getting further away from the happiness and the contentment and the fulfillment. I was getting less happy. And my longer story has alcohol and hard drugs and a lot of other downs and the ups and downs of life. And I was like, what's up with this? There's got to be a better way to go through life. And that's when I found the program. And then, when I say spiritual psychology, it's really nothing to do with religion. We use psychoanalysis techniques. So we learned 6 psychoanalysis techniques: Gestalt, NLP, psychosynthesis, rational emotive, Rogerian. But we take the assumption that we're all at our core good. If you choose to believe we have a soul, that our soul is love, and that's a connection to a higher power. We don't really get in the program I took, we don't really get into what the higher power is, et cetera, but we do take the assumption that we're all good, loving beings. And we use psychoanalysis techniques to clear out the psychological unresolved issues, because when we do that, then we're more in line with our natural loving essence. And so I went through and AJ, the word transformation and transformational is so, I think, overused. But my life, dude, totally went through a transformation. I mean, it was literally like night and day. Not literally, but like, you could describe it as night and day, because I was just so ego-based. And I really learned, a lot. I worked a lot on self-forgiveness, self-compassion. I came in such a better place with myself. And I learned, what I say is I learn and I teach about it. It's about a third emotional intelligence, a third psychology, and a third spirituality from a very general standpoint. But I implemented that into my companies, and then because it's like when I learned these things, my personal life took off, but then so did my business life. I started acquiring companies. My companies grew. I was on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies. What was also really cool is then I got to be, I actually started climbing the ladders of best places to work in San Diego. And by implementing what I implemented, we actually won best place to work in San Diego, which is a pretty big achievement. But I think it just goes, AJ, to show sort of that this stuff isn't just, these things the things that you talk about, the things I teach, are useful in so many different areas of people's lives.
Beautiful. So what caught my attention is that you said night and day, and truly from what you shared with us, it is sort of like night and day, because you said that you were initially ego driven, you wanted to feel powerful, you wanted to show the world that you were important, and happiness to you, it seems, was an event in the past related to a particular materialistic achievement, right? And then you went through that transformation. You initially had, like you mentioned, no spirituality or emotional intelligence, but you've experienced a transformation. But my question is targeted towards maybe your peers or people around you. How do you go about explaining the meaning of soul-centered leadership to people who don't believe in spirituality or the soul?
Well, to be honest, it's a great question. To be honest, I realize, because as sort of an author, speaker, thought leader, expert, whatever you want to call, whatever we're called nowadays, I sort of, when I came out, I did some stuff on happiness, which was really popular, but I was sitting with my speaker friend. We were just having a dinner at the National Speakers Association conference, funny enough. Tammy Evans, great lady. And we're talking, and I started to talk about, we're talking about our content. I was talking about spirituality. She's like, you really light up when you talk about that, much more than, happiness is nice, but, it's happiness has, been done before, and it's important, but the spirituality thing, and it was really, she said, and you put it into such a powerful context. And I'm like, yeah, but, I'm not sure everybody's going to be keen on it. I don't want to, some people, it may, like you said, AJ, it's everybody doesn't believe we have a soul. And she goes, yeah, but that's okay, because the people that do believe that need somebody to bring that in. And I realized that, my material isn't for everybody, or it's sort of a timing thing. It may not be for people right now. And I think that's part of my spiritual lesson, is to trust and to bring this up. And sometimes it's I have fear, and sometimes I have anxiety, and it's like, whoa, here's a bunch of stodgy old business people, in this audience, and I bring it up. And some people are like, I totally don't believe what you're saying. And I got to be okay with that, because, to be a risk taker, to be a leader in this world, part of that is I have to be okay with it not being for everybody. But then there's other people that are like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're bringing this into the business world, because I'm blown away by how many people that I, at first glance, and it's my judgment, and I'm like, man, they're not going to get this. But then they're like, oh my God, I totally believe this, but I've never had a context or forum to bring this out. And so it's just inspiring to me to see how many people are on board with this.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, many people are fascinated by it. Many people truly believe it. But it seems like they want somebody from the business world who's gone through that experience, gone through that transformation, and now is able to speak about soul-centered leadership from the business perspective as well. So, and I completely agree with you. You can't make everyone happy, right? There are some people who you can make happy, and some people for whom it's just not time yet. So, wonderful response. Now, speaking about the companies that you started 3 successful companies by the age of 35, which is no ordinary feat. What were some factors that helped you get there?
There's a whole bunch of factors. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it's, even though I didn't start the first one until I was 33, so I had a busy 2 years starting 3 companies. They're all in the software space, creation is scary. I mean, it is, and that's a funny thing is, AJ, leadership is scary. I say, if anybody is moving into a leadership position and they're not scared, they're either stupid, lying, or a psychopath. because by definition of leadership, it's like we have at one point in our life, we have a certain set of responsibilities, and then we have a certain set of duties. And then by definition, we either get promoted or we start something new, whether it's like a podcast, a business, a book, blah, blah, blah. So then all of a sudden we have much more responsibility and then new duties, and normally you don't get any training or support. And then it's like people are watching us with a microscope to see how we do every little thing. And dude, that's scary. Oh my God. Yeah. When I started my software companies, I got promoted. It's like, man, I don't really know what I'm doing. And what's really interesting, it blows me away. When I get to know a leader really, really on an intimate, trusting level. Every really successful leader told me that on some level, they think they're a fraud. And I'm talking about people that have running $2 billion a year companies. Because what happens is we keep pushing ourselves to places that we haven't been before, and we don't have that support. And there's so much pressure, and it occurs to get more and more pressure that we build up this identity in this thing. And so we feel like we're so worried that it's going to unravel on our friends, our peers, our coworkers. And mostly, it's so interesting is people's family. They're so worried about what their family would think if they would ever fail.
Mm-hmm. So I love what you said. You said leadership is scary. And then you mentioned that people have this feeling within themselves that they are a fraud, which I think a lot of our listeners do as well. Many people might be business owners. Some of them are moms as well who are managing their family, managing their kids, as well as trying to find their life's purpose. Many are students who are embarking on new careers, and many have been recently retired and now they're turning a new page. And the common theme is that everyone's trying something new and is pushing beyond their comfort zone. So what does a person do when he or she feels like a fraud, maybe in the morning?
Well, there's a lot of things. I love talking about this because first thing, and what was really important to me is once I learned that I wasn't the only one, It's like I got so much pressure because I thought I was the only one. Oh my God, I'm like, oh man, other people are like this. It took such a burden off me because I thought I was broken or I was screwed up, but dude, we're all like this. If that's broken, we're all broken. But actually we're all human. And just knowing that was awesome. And to be okay with it, I want to be a risk taker in life. And with risk taker, two things come. One is fear and the other is failure. I never ever set out to fail on anything, but I realized that I really want to be that type of person that really does great things in this world. And I realized that to do great things, I'm going to have to do a lot of things that I've never done before. And some of them aren't going to go the way I planned, that I'm attached to. So I really work on my own resilience, as you might call it. And to when I look stupid, I quote unquote fail, to really actually to be okay. I really work on my own self-worth to really not tie my self-worth to that success or that failure, which has been a game changer for me.
So Action Tribe, you are not alone. Remember that everyone who is taking action, taking a risk might feel that level of being a fraud because you're in unfamiliar territory. And sometimes what you do might not go as planned. So make sure that you have a really strong sense of self-worth because that will help you go the way. Now, Michael, as your story goes, by the age of 35, you founded 3 software companies. You played semi-professional basketball. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I'm about 6'8".
Got it. And you partied at the Playboy Mansion, but you still weren't happy. So I know you've alluded to some of this earlier in our interview, but what really was missing?
Oh, well, the relationship with myself, because I never worked on the relationship with myself. And I was so externally focused on money, on power, on sex, on drugs, on partying, on blah, 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 that I really never took the time. And I don't judge it, and that's one of the things I sometimes think back. It's like, what if I did this different? What if I did that different? But, I never had the framework. I never had the education. Nobody ever sat down and said, hey, why don't you just try being quiet for 5 minutes and see what comes up? And that time I had such ADD and I was doing all this crazy stuff that I'm sure when I was silent that the voices weren't kind. So, but and it took it really took years for me to. It took a year before I really felt like I started moving. Well, before I bought into all this stuff, because in the first couple months in things at school, I was really resisting it. But thank God I stayed in it. But and there's not, we live in this world of hacks. Like here's a life hack and here's this hack, and hacks are okay, but real transformation comes through time and practice and repetition and mastery. There's no shortcut to conscious evolution. I mean, there are practices that may get you there quicker, but there's no one thing that I'm going to tell you or AJ is going to tell you, listeners, that is going to really make you turn the corner right away. This type of transformation is a journey, and that's why for example, AJ has the accountability community group, and other people are having that stuff. So I love what you're doing, AJ.
Thank you so much. Really inspired by People like yourself who have spent so many years going through those struggles, going through those challenges, just so that someone who's listening to the show might not have to do so. You mentioned that the challenge that you had initially was the relationship with yourself. You were focused on the outside, and you were, it seems, trying to escape the voices and the thoughts and the chatter that would come if you tried to be in silence for a while. Now, Michael, at some point, based on what I've read, you encountered drugs, you had an alcohol challenge, you had gone through a divorce, and that brought you to a really low point in your life. Could you talk to us about that phase of your life?
Yeah, so on April 1st, 2008 was a real turning point for me. I was going through a divorce, which was hard enough as it is, and like a lot of business, especially entrepreneurs, I poured all my effort into business. And I had a business partner, and he was what we call a minority owner. So I own more than 50%. And though we were having a disagreement about ownership percentage, which can be a real big issue when it comes to two people that have equity in a business. And he has substance abuse issues too. But on April 1st, 2008, we had a disagreement, and in the middle of our office at 10 a.m., I remember, even remember the time, not just the date, but he got really angry, so angry he started yelling at me, and then he went, he got so angry he started yelling at me, and then he hit me, he assaulted me. So at April 1st, 2008, at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, I got assaulted in my own office by my business partner, which was, I can't tell you how just, I don't even know how to describe it. People ask me, were you, and he hit me, he realized what he did, he left my office. It's not that it hurt, but it just, people ask me, what did I experience? And it's like, it was like, just like shock. I'm like, did that really just happen? Did I really just get hit by this dude that I've known for years? You know what I mean? And just like, I think my brain was just trying to figure out, I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense, but it's just, even now when I think about it, it's just like so weird. But then obviously I couldn't really think straight. So I called some of my peers, my friends, and I'm like, hey, this just happened. And they're like, dude, if this happened once, this is going to happen again. You can't just let this go. Yeah. So I filed a restraining order against him. I filed a lawsuit to dissolve the partnership. All that, right afterwards. And that night, it was, I was reflecting on, what happened. And I was, to be honest, I was going to do some coke, smoke some weed, and drink some whiskey, which at that time in life, that's how I normally dealt with problems. But I was just really reflecting on my life. And it's like, look, my home life sucks. I'm going through a divorce. Now this thing happens. I mean, the guy was like my operations COO, chief operations officer. I'm like, I got to tell all the employees that he's not here, and we have a lawsuit against him now. The clients are going to ask where he's at. I'm like, am I even going to have my company in a year? I was just like, am I a failure? I was really like down on myself, and I'm like, and even before all this crap happened, I'm like, I wasn't happy. I'm like, where's my life going? I don't understand, because I'm working hard. I'm doing what I set out to do. And then I realized, I'm asking the wrong questions. I'm having the wrong goals. I'm trying to make this money. I'm trying to marry this woman. I'm trying to have this power in order to be happy, in order to be fulfilled. And I said, well, why don't I skip all that other stuff? And why don't I just ask myself, how do I get fulfilled? Because my intermediary step isn't working. And then I told myself, look, I'm going to since I'm a good achiever, I'm going to set my goal on to becoming happy and becoming fulfilled. And so that's where I found the University of Santa Monica, where I did take this program. And this program isn't the only way to do it, but it's a really intensive program. It was right for me at the right time. And like I talked earlier about the relationship with ourselves, what we really only do is, and it's very experiential. So we learn psychology, but we really learn to practice using it on ourselves. And in a way, what they teach us and what I really teach people is to really work on the relationship with ourselves. Because there's a phenomenon in psychology called a projection. Are you familiar with that, AJ?
I am not familiar with that.
So what that means is the relationship with ourselves mirrors every other relationship in our lives. So when we really come into a more loving, compassionate relationship with ourselves, we build up our self-worth, our self-esteem. then that affects every other, because every other relationship in our life is mirrored by the relationship with ourselves. So when we come into a better place with ourselves, a relationship with our friends, our family, our coworkers, our career, our health, money, that's all transformed. So we really only have to work on a relationship with ourselves, which is the core issue of everything. It's a little easier said than done, but that's really what I help people do. When we talk about a soul-centered leadership, it is leading from the inside out. We really show up as the most powerful person we can, taking complete ownership of ourselves, of what we're going through. We really are in touch with our intuition, with our connection with our higher power, and that really helps us. I say it unlocks our greatest leader. And when we can show up with that kind of power, with that kind of confidence, that we are worthy, that it's not confidence that we're always going to win. It's confidence that, hey, if I make a wrong decision, that's okay. I'm still a leader. I'm going to pull ourselves out of it. So I have confidence to move forward because I know that whatever comes up, I can handle. And to me, it's a really beautiful thing and a beautiful way to get people there.
So what you just said reminded me of an old African saying, which states, if we don't have any enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. So
that's beautiful. I like that. I might have to carry that one on.
Absolutely. I heard it first said by Les Brown, and as soon as he said it, just made sense. And the way you've wonderfully and so eloquently put that, it automatically brought that saying to my mind. So I completely agree. It's all about the relationship that we have with ourselves. And once we're able to love ourselves and be more compassionate and understanding with ourselves, even in times of challenges and failure, then that reflects on our relationships, and people automatically can see it through our body language with them and our interactions and communications. And I'm sure things get much better. Now, my question is, what really got you interested in spiritual psychology? Was it an interaction or a passing thought, or did you get inspired by someone who you knew?
Well, I joined a group called Entrepreneurs Organization. So it's a peer-based group of business owners. And a couple of them had just this really loving, warm aura about them. When I was around them, I'd feel more calm. They'd be very mindful. And basically, I'm like, look, I want what they got. And I made friends with them. And the ones still one of my best friends, Ron Harrell, and they went through the same master's program. And so I pretty much just signed up. I'm like, look, and I knew I didn't do any personal development yet in my life. So it presented itself. I had some faith and trust, and I moved forward with it.
Wonderful. So it seems like you found yourself a tribe. You found yourself a community. And like they say, you are the sum average of the people that you hang out with. You found a group of people who you sort of resonated with in terms of their aura, the way they spoke, the way that they use mindfulness in their interactions, and the way they thought. And you asked them, how do I get to learn, or how do I be a part of the experience that you've gone through? So that's really amazing. My question is, what is your definition of a conscious, awakened leader?
My definition of a conscious, awakened leader. I don't know if I have a short one.
Sure.
But to me, the conscious and awakened, what that really means is that we are, to me, and again, people's definitions may vary. To me, a conscious, awakened person is somebody that accepts the belief, that buys into the fact that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So, I have a soul. This soul, it existed before I was born as a human. It's going to exist after I die. What happened then, I don't even know. There's different theories. There's some things I like to fool around with, as beliefs. I don't really know what happens when I die. I don't know if I get reincarnated. I do whatever. It doesn't really matter to me because it's not relevant to me now.
Yeah.
But I do really, truly believe that I'm on Earth. And to me, this is what conscious and awakened means. I'm on Earth to learn soul lessons. So my higher power, and to me, my higher power, I don't have a definition for it because I don't think higher powers can be defined. So mine, I can't put mine into words. It's more like a feeling. My higher power really doesn't care how much money I make in this world. They really don't care what kind of car I drive. But why I'm here is to learn soul lessons. And when I mean soul lessons, my soul has some things that it needs to evolve. And if I don't evolve in this lifetime, I'm going to evolve it in some other lifetime, in this dimension or some other dimension. I don't know. And I just know that as I learn these soul lessons, and they're all about like self-compassion, self-love, self-worth, about accepting other people. They're all these internal lessons. And the more I learn about these, AJ, the more I feel better, the more I feel connected to myself, to other people, to the world, to my higher power, to the universe. So to me, and it's in a way it's self-serving because I enjoy life more. But it's funny, I enjoy life more by giving back. We call it by being of service. You're probably not making $1 billion a year with this podcast, but I bet, AJ, you get tons of fulfillment, like reading when you read the first testimonial review. I bet I'm guessing that's what drives you more than the money or the fame or whatever, anything else.
Oh, totally. For me, it's all about the connections that I have with amazing people like you, as well as the connections I'm able to make with the people who listen to the conversations that we have. In fact, just last evening, I put up my bookshelf, and I've always had this dream and this vision of having a little mini library at a corner of my home so I can get access to those books whenever I'm having coffee or tea, which otherwise was sort of stuck up in my closet, right? So I put up my bookshelf, and on the top rack, I have books of people who I've actually interviewed and spoken to on the show. And that experience was such a wonderful experience because it sort of, made me think, how amazing this year has been. 2016, as we are ending this year, sort of made me have this moment of gratefulness that for me, as you've suggested, it's really not about the money or the monetary aspects. And while it's important to, exist, right? Money helps us exist, and it's a wonderful energy to have. At the end of the day, it's all about the connection that I'm able to make with people who I would not have met in the first place if it wasn't for the power of the internet and the power of this podcast. So I'm really grateful each and every day that I get an opportunity to speak to wonderful people like yourself.
Yeah, and just one thing on that, AJ, and because I work a lot of self-limiting beliefs, some people think that they can't be doing something that they love and make a lot of money at it. I think it's great to do both. I have no problem with making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think, and I talk to some people, they're like, oh, I really love doing, this healing work, or I really want to, but I can't charge for it. I'm like, well, why not? I can't charge a lot for it. Well, you're changing this person's life. Why not charge a lot? Well, that's not, but the person has a lot of money. Charge them a lot of money. We sometimes, our ego or our lack of self-worth says, oh, nobody would pay for this, or they won't pay a lot of money for it. If it's worth a lot of money to somebody with a lot of money, then charge a lot of money. That in a way is more you owning your power. That's in a way an unconscious activity by you not charging what you're worth, or not asking for money, or not playing that bigger game. That's actually an ego-based reaction as well.
Wow, that is really some wonderful advice. Now, Michael, like I've mentioned, not all of our listeners are business owners, but many are aspiring students. Many have families that they're currently managing. Many are housewives. Many have relationships that they're trying to manage and trying to find their purpose. And many of our listeners are recently retired who are trying to turn a new page in their life and find a passion and really experience some of that fulfillment. What advice do you have for a person who wants to become a better leader and connect with their higher self?
Well, I say do stuff, and do a lot of stuff, and do different stuff, and do stuff that makes you scared, and do stuff that doesn't make you scared. The one thing it's funny because a friend of mine came, we were talking, and she's like, people that are arrogant really bug me. And I was thinking, I said, people that are arrogant are not my favorite thing in the world. But what bugs me more is when people don't move forward in their lives, or they have a power, they have, for example, a skill or a talent, and they don't own it. For example, AJ, I'm a good speaker. I'm a good speaker because I practice speaking thousands of hours. I'm okay with saying I'm a good speaker, and I that's the truth. It's like Michael Jordan's a great basketball player. It's okay for him to say, I'm pretty good at basketball. And I just see so many people, whether they're great at pianos, they're awesome writers, they're awesome, whatever. They're just awesome with people, and they're like, and you ask them, hey, are you good at piano? I'm not that good. Or if
That's true.
they do a great job and they do an amazing job and you say, hey, that was awesome. Great job. And they're like, oh, it was nothing. No, it wasn't nothing. It was awesome. Just say thank you. And again, that's really what I help people work on. It's okay to be powerful in this world. And a lot of us, through parenting, through society, there's a lot of little forces that we can't see that are sort of holding us down. It's not okay to be great. It's not okay to say you're good at something. And again, there's a way to be humble and own your power, which is not arrogance. It's okay to say, I'm a good author. I'm a good podcaster. I'm a great mother. And being a great mother doesn't mean you're a perfect mother. That doesn't mean you never, ever snap at your kids. That doesn't mean you never, ever give them sugar. That doesn't mean you never, ever do things like that. You're a human mother, but you're a great mother, which also means you're an imperfect mother. So it's just really and again, we get back to this self-compassion relationship with ourselves, to be okay with being human, to honoring our humanness.
Beautiful. So thanks a lot for sharing those inspiring stories. For someone who wants to take action right away, what is that one action step that you'd recommend for our listeners today?
Are you talking about action step as far as getting more in touch with me?
Action step in terms of, now that we've listened to the stories and insights that you've shared, what do they do next in their life to get closer to, whatever they're looking for?
Oh, I got you. Just a general. So the one thing that I really like doing is if you want to try something new and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. I don't know what, I'm afraid I'm going to fail, which I still get caught in this. I still get this sometimes. A really great quick tactic is to call it an experiment. Because AJ, what's the only way to fail an experiment?
What is the only way to fail an experiment?
Yes.
I think experiments do have a lot of failure, and the way to learn from from failure is to actually fail and take down notes and then try things again.
Well, let me put a different frame around it. So to me, the only way to fail an experiment is not to try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there's the whole thing of an experiment is there's no winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true.
It's like, maybe I want to start working out and I don't know whether I should do yoga or run or lift weights. And sometimes, like for me and a lot of people, we get caught into this, oh my God, and we think so much about, like, what are we supposed to do? It's like 2 weeks go by, we don't do anything. Well, if we call it an experiment, you know what? I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to go lift weights one time. I'm going to go to yoga one time. I'm going to go jogging one time. And they're all experiments. And I'm doing an experiment to find out what I like doing. All of a sudden, it takes all the pressure off of being quote unquote right. And it's really a great, quick, fun, easy way. Maybe you're even starting a new career. Hey, this first job is going to be an experiment. Maybe I'm not going to like it. We get so caught up in our expectation, our attachments of, what if I don't like it? Yeah, what if you don't like it? Quit. Then call it an experiment. You didn't fail at the job. You just it wasn't the right fit for you. Maybe you even get fired. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That means you're in the wrong position. So just do stuff and call it an experiment and then do more stuff.
Awesome. I'm already loving the things that we're learning today. It's so profound, as well as so easy to implement. Action Tribe, to access the show notes for today, visit my7chakras.com/186. That's my7chakras.com/186. Don't fear failure. Not failure, but low aim is the crime. In great attempts, it is glorious even to fail. This is an amazing quote by Bruce Lee. Action Tribe, as we're learning today, taking action is not an easy task, because with every step you take, you are treading into unfamiliar territory. And when things get unfamiliar, when you are pushing beyond your comfort zone every single day, you are bound to get things wrong, get tired, or get demotivated. Experiment. Don't ever give up, because failure is not really a bad thing. The very fact that you're listening to this episode right now means that you are a person who has big goals and a glorious vision. So make sure you experiment. And like Bruce Lee mentioned, it is glorious even to fail. So Michael, talk to us about a time when you personally experienced a major life challenge. How did you enter that situation? And then what steps did you take to overcome it?
Oh, well, I got a bunch of failures. I talked about a big one with my business partner. But, I do risk a lot. For example, Oh, geez. I'm trying to think of one that I can tell in a short story. But yeah, I was president of this nonprofit, and it was our first year, and we had this one big event, and then it was getting to be summertime, and we wanted to do this other kind of event, and I said, well, let's just. And people were like, well, we don't think people are going to come. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know either. So why don't we just send out a bunch of invites and see if people are going to come or not? And I said, look, I literally, because the thing about doing an experiment, I called it, hey, let's do an experiment. When you do an experiment, the best thing to do is like you want to taste something as an experiment. You want to break it down into the smallest bite you can. So, you don't want to go on an experiment for a year when you can experiment for a day and get the same result whether you like, for example, you like it or not. And I said, for this event, instead of like booking the hall and getting the speakers and doing all this effort, why don't we just send out invites, and then by a certain date, if we don't get many signups, then we won't go with the event. And they're like, can we do that? I'm like, yeah, we'll just cancel the event, And so we sent out these invites, and I think we needed like 15 people at least minimum, and 2 people signed up before our date. And so we just called these 2 people and refunded their money. And we said, hey, we're not going to run the event just because, summer's coming. We didn't get a lot of signups. And it's funny because the people on the board were like, wow, that was actually a lot easier than we thought. Now we know more about our target market, and, we gained information out of it. And I don't, I'm not going in there to not run the event, but, I didn't know our target market. I didn't know a lot of information about it. So I'm like, let's just do something instead, because we had a couple meetings where we just talked about stuff. I'm like, look, I'm tired of talking. I'm a bit impatient, and I have one of my old bosses said, you never make any money in meetings. So I'm like, look, I'm tired of meeting. Let's do something to provide some value. And again, if it doesn't work, then we learned. And so we took it as an experiment, and it didn't work. And I'm like, and people are like, and the one board member said, doesn't that like get to you? I'm like, no, I'm cool. I'm still good. So I don't know if that made sense, AJ. It's not my best storytelling story, but it is a failure that, and that's how those are the tools. I use those same tools to mitigate my potential getting down on myself.
Well, I think that's an amazing story. For our listeners, in just one sentence, what is that one major life lesson that you'd like to share with our listeners from this story?
Don't take yourself so darn seriously, man. It's like there's so many things going on in life, and we just sometimes a lot of us get so caught up in the little stupid stuff. And for me, when I put things in the context, that just me not running an event, me even getting hit by my business partner and have to get in a lawsuit, life's still going to go on. World's still going to turn. I'm still going to be a worthy, lovable person at the end of the day. And that's what my higher power gives me, is that faith that I'm still loved, I'm still worthy. It's not based on what I do or don't do. It's inherent.
Wonderful. So Action Tribe, I hope you are taking notes, because today we're getting advice straight from a business owner, a successful CEO who's been there, done that, and we're getting advice from him about how to take action and how to validate your market and how to ensure that your resources are put in the right bucket. So you shared that you were a president of a nonprofit, and at one point people were unsure if they would get attendees for an event, right? They were unsure if they would have to put in the resources, and then what if it fails? What if no one turns up? But you decided to take action anyway with a unique idea. Instead of putting all the effort up front, you thought of validating the idea beforehand by sending in invites and then figuring out whether people are really interested in such an event or not. And then based on that, deciding to put in the resources, which is time, effort, and money. At the end of that event, you realize that people weren't really interested in that particular event. But the good thing was that you did not waste money, as well as you learned so much about your target market. The board was happy, and they were happy because you brought into this board a new way of thinking, which they had not come across before. So I think this is a really, really amazing life lesson for all of us. And I'm sure many of our entrepreneurial listeners who are thinking of starting a new business get some ideas about how to use their time and money effectively. Thanks for sharing.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
So, Action Tribe, I hope you enjoyed today's session and have taken down some notes. Always remember that at the foundation of our movement is action. That's why we call ourselves the Action Tribe. We have so many amazing guests, authors, coaches, and experts on our show sharing their stories and sharing their strategies. But in order to see the results, you'll need to try them out for yourself. You don't have to start big. In fact, if you try doing everything at once, you'll feel overwhelmed. Instead, try out ideas and strategies one by one and maintain a journal so that you can track down your results. You might notice, in fact, you might not notice the impact of these small changes immediately, but over a period of time, you will feel the change. Because as the great Bruce Lee once said, knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. So, Michael, as on today, what is your life purpose?
Oh, my life purpose. Well, I only have two goals in life, and that is to deepen into my spiritual practice and experience surrender to a greater level. And surrender, what that just means is surrender to my higher power. My sort of work purpose is to raise the consciousness of the world by elevating leaders. Because, I think what's unique about me is I have done it. I have had success in business, and I also have, for example, the academic background and the spiritual background. So I really realize that my tribe are business leaders, and that is who I interact best with. So that's why I chose that. And I'm never more alive than like when I'm here with you, AJ, or speaking to a bunch of people, or teaching or training or writing. I just really I love getting my message out.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing. And you've shared some really fascinating stories with us today, really inspiring stories. Was there ever a defining moment that really changed your life? Maybe an interaction, maybe a phrase that you read in a book, maybe just a passing thought, a defining moment that changed your life?
Yeah, well, my business partner hit me. That was a defining moment because that set a whole bunch of other things into movement. Yes,
absolutely. So, Action Tribe, learn to use.
Don't get hit by your partner.
Don't get hit by a partner, and make sure that you make meaning and you make the right meaning out of the day-to-day situations that you face. And with that, we've arrived at the very last round for today, the wisdom round. The purpose of this rapid fire round is to take notes and to take action. So, Michael, what is the best advice that someone's ever given you?
Well, one of my spiritual teachers says, "And this too shall pass." And that just reminds me that, like the Buddhists say about impermanence, no matter what's going on, good or bad, it's not going to last forever. So whether it's fear, pain, even love, or joy, even like a feeling of happiness, this too shall pass.
Name a personal habit that keeps you going.
Meditation. When I started my quote unquote spiritual path, like I said, I didn't have any background in this, and a lot of people at school did. And I asked one person, "Hey, if I want to sort of accelerate my spiritual learning, what should I do?" They said, "Meditate." Like, well, I didn't want to meditate because I knew it took a lot of time and it was silent. So I asked somebody else. They said meditate. Like the 5 people in a row said meditate. And I'm like, all right, I'll meditate. And there's no substitution to me for silent meditation. And if you're not spending a couple minutes silently meditating per day, you're never truly going to have the awareness and the mindfulness that you really need to be consciously evolved.
Beautiful. So, Michael, do you have a morning routine?
I do. And it changes based on what I'm working on, but I do meditate, and then I do sit down with a pen and a paper, and I scan my life. Like right now, what I'm doing is I'm scanning my life, and I see where I'm not surrendering, so where I'm trying to keep control of. I look to see what signs the universe is giving me. So if I'm experiencing upset or resistance somewhere, what is my soul lesson around that? And I have a couple steps to that. But basically, every morning after meditation, I see how I can greater live in a state of surrender and flow with my higher power, which really grounds it into my everyday life. Oh, and then what I do, AJ, is like there's one thing I want to remember that day. I'll set a reminder to and I'll pick a random time or a time I know I'll need that, and then like my timer will tell me if at 2:30 I'm going to go into an intense meeting, I set it for 2:55. Hey Siri, 2:55, tell me to remember to love myself. And so right when I'm getting ready for the meeting, my thing will ring, and then I'll be like, oh, and it'll sort of bring me back to that time. So that's my morning practice.
So name a book that you'd like to recommend for our listeners today.
I love Carolyn Myss, M-Y-S-S. Carolyn Myss, M-Y-S-S. And I love it. She's got one called Sacred Contracts. That to me is I love anything by her, but Sacred Contracts to me is profound.
So Action Tribe, I know how much you love our book recommendations, and I know that many of you purchase these books as soon as you hear them shared on the show. And that's why Audible.com is offering Action Tribe one free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial so that you can go out and check their amazing service. Now, Audible has over 180,000 titles to choose from your iPhone, Android, or Kindle, including bestsellers like The Chakra System by Anna D. Judith, Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda, and A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/MSC. That's audibletrial.com/MSC for your free audiobook. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really an amazing experience. Before you go, tell us one thing that you are grateful for, and tell us the best way our listeners can find you.
Well, like you mentioned at the beginning, this is Christmas Eve day, and I'm grateful for my 5 nieces and nephews, and we're about to go out and cook some dinner together, and they're 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 or something. They're spread out, evenly spread, and I'm just so grateful to be here with them. And so how you can reach me, it's my new book, Soul-Centered Leadership, is coming out right about the time you're listening to this. And you can go to soul-centered-leadership.com. Or to be honest, just Google it. There's no other soul-centered leadership out there. So it's soul-centered-leadership.com. And, it's great for people that are in leadership positions and they want fulfillment. It's for people that want to do more doing in their life. They, maybe you have an idea, you want to be more of a leader. And like you mentioned, AJ, everybody's a leader. I mean, I have so much respect for you mentioned people that stay home with their kids. That is crazy. I'd never want that job because I see what the people go through. But you are leading your family, and that takes leadership. And I have 24 great skills that you can learn and just put in your arsenal to make you give back more to the world, have more fulfillment, have more confidence, and really bring out your greatest leader.
So there you go, Action Tribe, soul-centered-leadership.com. We'll have this link up in the show notes as well. We're recording this episode during Christmas, but by the time it releases, it's going to be early in January. So I hope you're having a great, impactful, and powerful 2017. Michael, thank you so much for coming on our show, talking to us about soul-centered leadership and taking us one step closer to a human revolution.
Thank you, AJ. Keep inspiring out there.
You were listening to My 7 Chakras. Go to mysevenchakras.com. Download your free gift, get inspired, and take action. Transform your life today.